Welcome back to Let's Talk Racing Island. I'm your host, Harrison Paul. Folks, today I'm going to have to give in and talk about something I probably would have liked to keep secret. Yes, but I was watching Love is Blind. My lady got me into it. Don't don't blame me. She got me into it. We're always looking for something to watch together. So I always say that I'm not a huge fan of movies. It has to be something based on real life. So I guess Love Is Blind was for the last couple of weeks was the closest thing to real life entertainment that we could get at the time. But I just thought it'd be there's some things I saw. Of course, being who I am, I obviously see things through the scope of a Pan Africanist, and I just kind of help but analyze at every point what's going on, what the agenda is in that episode, in that show. Now, I could discuss the Christian side of it, as you know, anybody who doesn't know I'm a Christian. I could discuss my Christian beliefs here and how this show is used to really denigrate the altar and just something you can just turn on and turn off. And even the, this idea of exposing, personal things going on within a marriage that people have to work through. And the reunion there, we just saw Steven and Sabrina have to pretty much air out their laundry and have a couples therapy session right there in front of the world. So these kind of things I feel create this toxic, energy and behavior and perspective around marriage. And marriage is supposed to be very sacred. And if anybody's to sit down with them too, and no one's supposed to know afterwards what happened, what happened between them. So it's unfortunate, right? That this is something that really, I want to say, disrespects the union that God created, a beautiful union that God created. But we won't. This is not a Christian podcast, so we won't get into that today. But what we will talk about is these shows, these Love Is Blind, Love Island, I don't know, these British reality TV shows. These shows are very Eurocentric shows. They're Eurocentric. They are revolved around the white phenotype. And although, yes, everyone's going to say how extreme this is and relax, you need to take it easy, but it's true. And the one question I want to know is, does a show like this celebrate Black beauty, or do we get the Black people who have morphed themselves into a Eurocentric version? I would like to know if Black women could come on there with Bantu knots. Could you see a Black woman sitting on Love Island with Bantu knots? With strong African features, with a strong African countenance or aura about them. I just feel like these shows, the number one question you should ask is, how much yourself can you be in these shows, which I think is really explanatory to African, British, or Irish, or European culture in general. We are very European in our ways, but I do think there's a comfort zone in which, whether it's around people close to us, where we are ourself in terms of our Africanness. And I don't know if that is palatable on a TV show such as that one. So instantly it is promoting, I want to say, a diluted version of the Black man. And I say Black man in a unisex term. I was talking to another friend of mine. She's a lady, and we were just discussing. She was like, why? I don't know. Every time my sister goes on that show, I'm asking myself, why have you done that to yourself? You know these shows are not for us. Why do you go on these shows? And I could go on, a huge rant about just my frustration with these shows, and specifically, look, whatever they do in the show, I don't care. But this show where I just know, all the viewers, the British public or the Irish public or whatever, are there to judge our brothers and sisters. And it's just not, it's not the kindest spotlight. That's one thing we know for certain. We saw how Nella Rose was treated in this "I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here," and people will excuse it and say, "Oh, she's this or she's that." But we know this by now, and I don't understand why we go back or why we really want to be accepted in these areas. Now, of course, we also have the fact that Love Island, the last winners were black. And I found myself so torn about celebrating this moment. Do you celebrate the moment that you have finally been accepted, seen as enough, beautiful enough? You know, well, I don't know wherever that show is about, but I guess it's something got to do with viewers at home feeling that these were their favorite couple. So there's some sort of desirable in that. It's a matter of how desirable you guys are as a couple, as a union. I don't know what it's about, but we're gonna get to Love Is Blind for anybody who came here for that. But should we really be celebrating the moment that we are accepted? I don't know. Is it a great moment that the first black couple? I sometimes like to look at things from a white perspective and just think to myself, as a white person, I'm looking at that thinking to myself, are these black people this desperate for any sort of recognition that they're celebrating a our Love Island first black couple? Don't know. I just felt these things are a little bit, I don't know. But listen, I won't stay there too much. Let's get to the Love Is Blind. Now, there's a few things we could talk about within the episode, which was there. There's a few things about that. But we can obviously talk about Nicole. We can talk about how Nicole was humiliated on numerous occasions. I could get very psychological and very deep about her as a person. I won't do that because that is not nice. I just don't like to do that, and you may assume that what I want to say about her is not nice, but I will just have my opinion about her consciousness as a black person, but I don't think that is necessary for me to share. It's not important. So I will I rather make an assessment on and show entirely rather than her as a black woman, right? But there's a lot of things I could discuss about the episode in general, but I want to just dive straight into the reunion, because I'm sure everyone now has seen the reunion. I watched it today with my lady, and it was very interesting. Now, I want to use this as an example. Of course, these are little miniature moments, but this is what you can expect from these type of shows. So at the beginning, I think the first couple that were addressed was Ollie and Demi. I think that was a very interesting choice. Might not think anything of it. That's just me. I only thought something of it after I realized, okay, so that was the first couple choice to open with the drama. Okay, whatever. But I noticed that Ollie, of course, had a messy moment in regards to how he's now moved on to Sharon, or if that's her name, the other mixed race girl. And I felt, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I was a little bit happy to see Catherine, who had put down Demi as a sister, and really had this, white woman superiority, while I'm, slim waist, blonde hair. If he's gonna want anybody, he's gonna want me. Just typical Eurocentric beauty standards. She understands the world that we live in. We can't be mad at her for understanding it, right? It's an unfortunate truth about it, right? But here's where it gets cool, because you don't have to indulge in it, which she is indulging in it, right? So she makes the nasty comment, whatever, and I feel the hosts, had Demi not had mentioned what Catherine had done, they wouldn't have done it either. I don't think so. But Catherine was actually having her day, and she was being addressed, and she was backwards against the wall. If it was Jasmine, it was Ollie, it was everyone. And I was really happy at that moment. I even stood up, I was celebrating a little bit, because I just felt like I just kind of wanted, I think Demi even referenced this, some accountability to be said, right? And of course, I think, Surprise, surprise. I'm also a Freddie fan. I thought he was a really kind, well raised young man. I just felt like maybe he was, a little bit hard done by. But I'm not going to get into that relationship as it's white love. Let them do however they wish to do. But I was happy in general that she was now being addressed with really I would like to call it a racist moment. People are going to say that's extreme because everyone hates the or word, but I think there was a little bit of belittling a black woman there. That is the fact of it. So although we want to try find a different word to use that's not the or word, unfortunately that's the only way. She was looking at herself as the epitome of Eurocentric beauty standards, and felt like, I'm in the clear when it comes to this bigger shaped black woman. And that's what she felt based off what Europe has taught her about where she sits in, in the standards of beauty. And what I didn't like specifically was when the presenter, the female presenter, after she was getting challenged on her nonsense, they quickly changed the subject and they finalized it, because as you can see even on her last kind of quote before they close off on her, she was kind of choking up and she looked as if she was about to start crying. And they defended her, white woman tears, defended her. They blocked her off. Okay, that's enough of that. And they put it away. And then they went over to Ollie and said, Ollie, you said about Sharon that she looked berserk. Anybody who watches the show, you'll know what I'm referencing. She looked berserk. She looked whatever. And I felt like she didn't, this is what I say about these shows, the agenda. She didn't want Ollie, a black man, to get away with it while a snow bunny, blonde hair and blue eyes was getting all the heat. It should be shared with this black man. Anybody who's gonna cry, they're gonna be crying. You're gonna be crying throughout this episode. You're gonna be like, "Why are you making these episodes so serious? It's not about that." No, this is real people in the show. It may not be real 24/7. It's a lot of it for me felt scripted, but it's real people. So when it's real people, people's habits come into play, and that is how a show that's supposed to be casual, you do see racism in it, because these are real people at the end of the day. It's not, you know what I mean? These are real people exhibiting human behavior. Very possible, right? So then he quickly changes to Ollie. Now, I had a problem with this from the word go. I just knew that they were trying to change, deflect it. I didn't like it at all for two reasons. Number one, I didn't like how Demi was struggling with her confidence. And in order to really almost bring her back down after the work she did to build herself back up and her self-esteem, specifically for the show and on that show and who she will be remembered for that show, this was her last opportunity to really get a strike at, confidence. And here they are dragging in Sharon, that's her name, the mixture. I just felt like that was a loaded moment. It was very, very loaded. And why I'm certain it was loaded, because even when I got to the end and I rethought about it, they didn't actually, because a lot of people had messy moments. Tom had this messy moment in the bar when he was having a chat with Natasha. They didn't actually bring that up. And I remember when they were having an interview with Tom, right? I was waiting for the moment that they would actually play where Tom says with his mouth that I don't think me and Maria are going to get married. I was waiting for that. They just played the part where Natasha kind of makes herself look a certain type of way, again, protecting Tom in that moment. And you probably didn't notice it, but if you look back, they played the thing played very quickly, and they could have played Tom's real messy moment. Another messy moment was Catherine towards the end when Freddie finally got brought into this whole ordeal at the end with the reunion. I felt that they could have played the moment in which Catherine actually basically asks, Sam to go on a date, and that I would love your ring. Again, another moment where they really kind of blocked out the messy part, right? And I just felt like this is what This show is not just a show, it's real life. It's black people's dirts are dirtier. And I was just my last episode I put on the screen was about how Jermaine Genius was just fired from the BBC, yet Hugh Edwards was kept for a far longer time. And it's just like the story of our lives here. And I'm not here to complain and say, boo hoo, this is what happens to us. But I'm here to kind of encourage you guys, anybody who's going to watch this, and it's going to be tough for me to do that. But I'm unsubscribing from these shows. I'm cutting off, besides the fact I'm a Christian and it didn't actually sit well in my spirit to be indulging in these things that were actually playing with subliminal messages to denigrate the altar and what God has created to be sacred. But, just something you can just, I didn't feel good, throw it out. You know what I mean? That concept, that wasn't sitting right. And even the fact that people can, you know what I mean, try each other out and just this whole, the show. But on top of that, even from my consciousness as a black person, I don't enjoy these shows. And it's funny because if there's one thing that I do like, is how black Americans do shows. Now, of course, America's Love is Blind wasn't perfect because I didn't like how anybody who knows will know Clay, how he often sexualized AD. And I thought, that's where, there was some flaws there. And I didn't appreciate that. I didn't appreciate her, it's her wedding day and we're talking about body. Anybody who know that quote, I just think stuff like that. It's denigrating black women, just reducing them to, kind of just body-addy. You know what I mean? I don't like that concept, right? Now, but when I think about shows like Pop the Balloon, I'm also a show I'm trying to stay away from because it's just not sitting right with my spirit either. But, I think shows like that are a little bit better for us. Don't you think, black folk, my brothers and sisters? Because there's shows that center around us. Now, this may sound very self-absorbed, but when we have been sent messages for generations after generations of just being second class, second best, whether our hair, and now that's why the best hairstyle for a black woman to get is the bust down part. It's like we've so much bought into and indulged to this Eurocentric world that I do enjoy where we have created things of our own that move a little bit more towards being Afrocentric, just for our healing. Just for our healing as a community. It feels really good when I see, black women get picked up by black men on that show. Again, not encouraging this, hookup culture at all, but goodness me, kind of seeing blackness be appreciated by our own is slightly refreshing. That I have to ask God to forgive me because I'm just feeling so much refreshment from that. I think there was Nicole and what's his name? I can't even remember his name. Might have been Robert or something. But they got engaged from that show. And I was really happy with that. I'm not going to lie because I'll put them on the screen for you guys to see it. I just enjoyed black love. I just really enjoy when a black man is celebrating a black woman. And I just feel that we are so... it just shows why Demi actually, or rather Catherine, thought that, she won't fly, because I know the world that we live in. We live in a Eurocentric world. And I love where we can create our own world where it's refreshing to tell us like, nah, Eurocentric don't sit at the top here. We doing our own thing. You know what I mean? Just to refresh, to come out of trauma, to come out of an indoctrination, to come out of a conditioning. And this is my, qualms with shows like this, when we subscribe to these Love Islands, when we subscribe to Love is Blind UK's, it's this show where we're the second best. I just really do feel that. And I don't trust them. There's always an agenda. There's always, causing, just this automatic covering, that slight covering that happens for the likes of, the harmless blonde girl who could turn to tears to get the sympathy from the crowd. But, maybe if a black girl shows her snappiness, I don't think it would end the same way that, oh, she makes mistakes. Now everyone's kind of, people are trying to say how Catherine is making mistakes and she'll probably get to say sorry and like she did on the reunion, and that's it, and let's not go too heavy on a harmless snow bunny. And I just feel like that's fine. Let them have that life for themselves. Let them set that standard for themselves. But when we interject ourselves and we constantly desire to interject ourselves, we're only going to be at the back of the line, because they've already placed their Toms, their Catherines at a place where, of course they have some form of honesty, amongst themselves, but ever a time where it's between you or them, you know what I mean? It's gonna be them, if it's ever a time to demonize either you or them, it's gonna be you. It's gonna be us, and that creates this second best situation. So it was a confusing situation with the Demi, because I just felt like they wanted to kind of dim her light after she just had brightened her light by using Sharon, and they didn't actually have to interject, Ollie's relationship or his fling that he was having after the show with somebody from the show, because Catherine also admitted after the show that she actually is having a fling with somebody on the show. So they could have had a moment that said, oh, Catherine, you have actually had a fling with someone else on the show. Isn't that right? But they knew that would make her look messy. They wanted to keep her in a position where she loved Freddie. She gave Freddie all she wanted. And, the scorned woman, the poor Catherine was just kicked to the curb by Freddie. Wasn't enough. When they could have made her seem like a woman who is promiscuous and bounced to the next one as soon as they did, the same way they tried to make Ollie look like he just bounced to the next one. I was proud of Ollie, how he tried to protect Demi through this thing. So, listen, guys, I even feel very weird sitting on here and discussing people's lives and picking people apart. I don't like to do that. And I would have really gone into characteristics, but I would just like to keep it about the show. And these shows, guys, are dangerous, really. They're dangerous without you knowing it, subconsciously, subliminally. There's messages being sent, and you are understanding something about yourself within this society. So, let's try and push towards really having what the African Americans have. They're so obsessed with having a Eurocentric safe space, an Afrocentric safe space for themselves, where they celebrate their love, where they're not second best to a Taylor Swift, where they are beautiful, where they are the number one thing, where they are I think us as African Europeans, we need to get out of that thing where we are so desperately wanting to come up to par. And that's why we find ourselves doing embarrassing things like celebrating the first black couple. What kind of even a celebration is that? Because we're pick-me's to some degree. We honestly are pick-me's, whereas Americans have now built this new mentality that says it's us. It's us. And some may feel like, well, that's racist, or we're tired of being second best in your realm. We're tired of having to put on a weave in your realm, a Eurocentric wig in your realm. How about we want to come to our spot and put on some Bantu knots and start walking around like, yeah, I'm in a space where I'm understood, I'm appreciated, I'm not second best, we're loved. And that's the one thing that I do love about African American culture, even in the hip hop side of it. As much as it's got its flaws, as much as it's got its things that it needs to fix, I understand that there's a lot of trauma. Please understand that it's trauma that you are seeing being projected within the hip hop realm. It's trauma. As much as I hate it, I'm disappointed in it, I love that majority of the times the number one hip hop rappers, be it Lil Baby or be it Gunna, they're gonna have a black woman on their arm. They're gonna celebrate their own beauty. There's gonna be this sense of self within the community of like, you know what, we are enough for ourselves. And in fact, when a brother who wants to come in and be Mr., a coon doesn't survive that much in the hip hop community. Let's put it that way. In the hip hop industry, in that industry, you don't survive too much. And they have their own thing going so much that you have people in the pop realm, you have people in the white realm trying to come to the cookout. We've not created that for ourselves here in the UK, honestly. You got the Shade Borough, who is an informant. That is whoever runs that page is just honestly demonic. But it's news, so we keep reading it. Anyway, that's all I got to say for today. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And I'm on a mission for you.